Hey, what's up? It's Metta World Peace. And as you know, May is the month where we bring awareness to mental health. So on behalf of the Pandas Friend and the pandasfriend.com and Metta World Peace, we want to present to you this segment on mental health. So I'm from New York City. Give you a little bit of my background. Queens, New York City. From a rough area in Queens called Queensbridge, Long Island City. Things that we've been through in our neighborhood collectively, some people were a little bit more susceptible to violence and crime than others, depending on your household, depending on how you was raised. But everybody grew up in the same place and it was fairly tough. So a little bit of background and why I got involved in mental health is because I seen some of my best friends, get locked away in prison, have mental health issues, get on drugs. And when you see someone evolve into something that they probably would not have wanted to have been, it affects you. And it affected me. Family also. You can see your family involved in something they probably would not have wanted to be. So with that being said, what I like to do is bring awareness to mental health issues, more from a general landscape, but keeping in mind that it's your responsibility to diagnose people the right way.
Mental health.
I think my environment impacted my mental health because the environment that we grew up in, school issues, lack of education depending on what school you go to, violence in the community, home issues depending on where you live at. I think all of that impacted and gave me this sort of shell protector that I put around myself so I can stay focused. But sometimes putting a shell around yourself can only keep things bottled in. I always wish I would have had more to release or somewhere that I could release. But growing up in our environments, you have to survive, not just physically, but mentally at times. And that's probably even worse than trying to survive physically. And often you have to do it both ways. You're either fighting or you're trying to stay focused and not get into trouble. That's if you haven't already been in the trouble. And we know in our communities where we're from, 3 strikes sometimes and you're out. So with that being said, my environment definitely affected how I think about life and how I want to be competitive just to make it out. But I feel like you should be competitive regardless, but different places, depending on where you're from, you grow up different and it's something else inside of you. And it's not always a great thing, but that's how my environment affected me. It was being slowly introduced. You had counselors, so I did have a counselor at the Wendell Homeschool. I think her name was Miss Oliver, actually. And I remember getting in trouble a few times. I'm very fortunate that JHS Junior High School 204 did provide some tender love and care. I don't know if they necessarily had social workers or therapists there. In high school, I did receive therapy in high schools. That was LaSalle Academy. Then when I got to college, the same thing. So I think, a lot of the lower level or under pro organizations, such as colleges, universities, high schools, they definitely saw more kids being affected by depression, anxiety, different things, more so than the NBA or NFL or MLB. So that's probably why, they was quicker to the punch. With that being said, it still was a stigma. If you go to school, you get in trouble, automatically you're a bad kid. Every kid that gets in trouble is a bad kid, but it was never, hey, let's see what this kid is going through. Because you'll be surprised if the kid will actually open up. But then sometimes it can go over the top. One time I had an incident with a teacher in the 2nd grade. I actually threw a punch at a teacher. I was in 2nd grade. I got suspended. If that same teacher would have talked to me, maybe I don't. And then that same teacher actually came to me when I got back and said, listen, you cannot be doing that, young boy. You need to relax. I don't care how mad you get. So, what can make an 8-year-old kid that upset? That's why it's important to start mental health awareness at an early age, in the kindergarten level. Start mindfulness, start meditation, start different practices like that. I think having depression and anxiety, it affected the ability for me to learn at a pace that I wanted to learn. I really loved school growing up. Everybody's different. Some people will not do as well because they're not getting the teaching, or some people will not do as well because they probably want to go to school. Me, I was giving effort, I just couldn't really pass, and I feel like it was a mix of a couple things. One, not having, the foundation of high level education, because when you're in school, they teaching you to do as best as you can, get hundreds if you can, get A's if you can. Well, if you're not being taught that at home, then you don't have those skills. So that was one issue, that I had, or that I can see is something that we probably could fix. Then also, when you get in trouble, you get suspended, you're not learning. Or if you're coming to school upset, you're not focused on the books. So that's ways where having anxiety, depression could affect your learning. What inspired me to advocate for mental health topics, growing up, I had a friend named Bantu Mays. Bantu Mays grew up on 12th Street on a famous Mob Deep block. I always refer to Queensbridge, I always mention the blocks. And I remember him being in elementary school, getting hundreds, 95s, hundreds, A's on his tests. And I remember, I'm looking at him and I'm saying, I'm studying hard. I love this class. And he go home, he does his homework, he's outside in an hour. It takes me 5 hours to get outside, or 3 hours. And he's chilling with his friends. I'm just like, how is this even possible? So from kindergarten all the way through 6, he was getting straight A's, even when we got to junior high school together. But then he was actually in the streets a little bit, and he later was seen on a news publication. He died. Then you get other issues where some of your friends might have done something violent in the neighborhood. Issues where your family might have done something. When you take all this in consideration, you look at everyone around you every day you walk outside, especially after an epic event happened, maybe somebody got shot or something. Then you're walking outside, sad, mourning, and then you're hoping that you can just make it out somehow. Because in a neighborhood, it could be considered a jungle. Everybody tough for the most part. So anybody could have a reaction, and you see it. So it's like, how do you make it out? Right, just focus, and hopefully you don't get shot. Hopefully you can find somebody along the way that understand, that's willing to take the time to listen to you. Right, and then after they listen, maybe they can get a better understanding of what you want to do with your life, with your career. In our neighborhood, you'll see a lot of older men and women that didn't really get those opportunities. So people forget about them also, which that's another thing to advocate for. When you advocate for different issues, you always gotta look at the underlying issues. And people that was affected by things a long time ago that didn't get the services that we have now, and still being affected to this day. How can we show our gratitude and give them something to hold on to, and give them something to meditate about, give them a tool to relax, give them some education also, and some knowledge, so they have a chance. 40 years old, that's young, but some people write that off as a death sentence. If you didn't do nothing by the time you're 40, you're nothing. And that's not true. That's not true. So that's why I'm such an advocate for mental health. So the Pandas Friend brand is a symbolization of the panda. When you see the panda, especially as a child, it reminds you so much of a human. You've seen all those videos on YouTube. Pandas are curling and cuddling. And Then when they get older, you can't really go too close to them. Just imagine being 40 years old and somebody wanting to cuddle you all the time. Obviously, don't go next to the panda. Don't try to cuddle a 40-year-old. But when you look at the symbol of a panda and what it means, for me, it brings a lot of people together. And obviously, most of the pandas are, from Asia. And when you look at the culture in Asia, whether it's India or China, the meditation and the Buddhism impact that they have, if you study Buddhism, has a lot to do with self-awareness, balance, which that's what I love, especially as I discovered Buddhism, meditation, breathing, different practices like that when I was at the age of 28. And that's what made me fall in love with the panda and that symbol. So the Pandas Friend, not only is it a comfortable wearing brand, the Pandas Friend is also a brand that supports Mental Health Month, which, as we know, is May. The Pandas Friend supports anyone with mental health issues, anyone that have anxiety, depression, that's trying to just find that balance, trying to get back on track. Pandas Friend also provided many opportunities for youth leagues, giving people an opportunity to connect, and like I said, health as well, physical fitness. This all has an effect on your mental health. And that's what the Pandas Friend is all about. So a lot of people ask, did mental health affect my ability when I was on the court training, my depression, anxiety? I think so. It's a gift and a curse. You have this intensity inside of you. You bring it out to the court in the summertime, in the mornings, 4 times a day. And that's all going well, but then one mistake, boom, season, career over. So although you were playing well, and myself in particular, you're still not stable enough to sustain it. So with that being said, it's very important to identify different issues early. I've seen so many players like myself had an opportunity to take it to the next level, or at least maximize. And because of different issues, we can't. Now, issues is not necessarily the player's fault, but it can sometimes affect you on the court. I think it did affect me at times. Sometimes you worry about things on the court that's happening home and vice versa, right? Versus just having a great time, being grateful, but that's easier said than done. So on average, I don't think when I was depressed or when I had anxiety, I don't think that really affected me as much as I would have thought it would affect me, but especially as I think back on it, it did affect me a little bit. Well, I remember when I was coming up and people gave us encouragement, tips. So I would give athletes the advice of work extremely hard and enjoy everything. Literally enjoy it. Even enjoy the stress. It's hard to say, it's hard to believe that I couldn't fathom that. But how many people get a chance to be stressed with millions in their account? I mean, that's it. Now we know money don't change everything, but I'm just trying to put a little bit of light on it if you are going through things. You know what I'm saying? Like, how many people can be stressed in those conditions, anxiety or depression. Now, some people are under a lot of stress and don't know where their next meal gonna come. That is a little bit different. It is, even though we know we all human, we're not perfect. It is a little bit different, and some people just don't care. Like my buddy Larry Sanders. He left 27 million on the table because he had a real issue inside, where cannabis was a solution for him. But back then, it wasn't as accepted as it is now. So we get it, like money doesn't buy love, it doesn't buy happiness. But I just try to put a different perspective on it. You know, try to enjoy your time as much as you can. Embrace, you know, any stress that comes your way. Embrace it because it's natural and it's normal. And then give yourself time to get over it. Don't rush. I think that's one thing I did that I really love. The fact that I didn't rush my healing. I just let it happen naturally. And that's what I would advise you to do also. For self-care, what I like to do is relax, breathe, have that self-time. I really don't mind spending time with myself, figuring out what's going on in my life, and making sure my day starts off good and ends good. So self-care for me is just doing things I love. I mean, I love watching sports. You know, I love, in particular, basketball, or specifically boxing. Really love boxing. Makes me happy, just watching it. I think also, I'm very curious. So it's things I didn't really do in college that I'm doing now. So I'm happy. I'm really happy learning, you know, how to do websites and stuff. I just think it's fun. You know, and then when I get a chance, I like to look at the stars. Stuff I do that makes me happy. You know, cause we do as parents, we spend a lot of our time nurturing, attending to our children, attending to your wife, attending to my wife. So definitely important to have that self-care. You know, being able to maybe take a jog on your own, maybe ride a bike on your own, and just reflect, or just have a good day. You know, simply just ride your bike, hike, just in the moment. Those type of things I feel is all different ways you can provide self-care for yourself.
How do you manage stress?
So the way I manage stress is now, as I'm getting older, understanding what you eat, what you are. Also, the way I manage stress is singing bowl music. The singing bowl music can be found anywhere, or you can just buy a singing bowl. It's a great tool. There's different things like that that help you manage stress. As you can see, I'm leaning towards meditation. I'm leaning towards holistic approaches. Because once you center yourself, you always realize it's not as bad as it seems. Especially when you look up into the stars, looking into the sky, and you realize whatever is up there, whatever aliens are up there, they don't really care about what you're going through. They don't even know you're going through something. And even when you look down from afar, you literally don't care or know what anyone's going through. So definitely it's good to understand and notice that you're going through something, but the faster you can come out of it, put it in perspective, the better. Any high school athletes that are feeling anxiety, maybe depressed because they didn't get picked where they wanted to get picked, or positioned where they wanted to get positioned, stay the course. Also have a plan B. I know everyone's trying to make it to the NBA. We got 400 spots in the NBA, maybe another 200 to 300 in the G League, maybe another 10,000 in Europe, maybe some more thousands in other countries per country. And we got millions of high school players. So that right there tells you that not everyone's gonna make it. You know, so you have high school players with different issues. Some are elite and some are not. Make sure you have a plan B, and even the elites, make sure you have a plan B. You need something else to do. Imagine just playing basketball all day, which I've done, and then getting home and just thinking about it, which I've done. But it has to be something else that could help you take your mind off just basketball. I'm not saying take you away from basketball, just take your mind off it for a little bit. Do you like to sing? Do you like music? Do you like to draw? Do you like hikes? Do you like to chat? Do you like to cook? Maybe you want to do a card for your family member. Something you love. The beach, water, whatever, that you could attach yourself to, so you know you always have something to fall back on. That's between you and that thing that you have to fall back on. So that's my advice for high school kids and athletes going through different stress challenges that comes with being a high school player. So on behalf of the Pandas Friend and the PandasFriend.com, where you should shop and support a brand that supports mental health. We define mental health as a negative and a positive. Negatives being depression or anxiety. We have to fix that. Positives being you're happy, you deserve it. Mental health is not all negative. You could be mentally healthy, you could be mentally happy, or you might need some mental health services because you have depression or anxiety. When you hear the word mental health, don't be alarmed. Don't get scared. Good or bad, mental health is important for you. The PandasFriend.com supports mental health, and we support you. Make sure you visit the PandasFriend.com and support a brand that supports you.